So like I mentioned, now we're up on the rack with the 2020 Ford Explorer ST, and we're going to check out this Borla exhaust system. But first I wanted to start this forward portion of the stock exhaust system and show you a very disappointing part of it, at least to me. I'm not very happy with the way this is designed. But check out this catalytic converter. Same thing on both sides. These things basically dump straight down into a solid wall. The exhaust has to come straight down and then do a 90-degree turn to get out. That's definitely costing you some horsepower. If these were just canted back more and with a straighter path instead of just making the exhaust do a 90-degree turn, it'd be much more efficient. There's definitely some horsepower to be had there. I won't say how much, but there's definitely something there to be had. But if we go back, this is all stock exhaust system, and then we get to the front of the Borla system. We've got a nice muffler here, their S-top muffler, much smaller than the factory one. You can see how much space there is on either side. The factory one, much larger. All the piping is mandrel bent, and it looks very, very nice. Good quality stainless steel with good welds. I'll take you back to the front here. You can see welds there, welds on the mufflers, all very nice quality stuff. Actually, let me get you a little bit of light on that. There, you can check that out. Welds you could be proud of. It's good quality exhaust work there. Same thing on this back side here. Good quality clamps being used. And we go back around again, you see these nice smooth transitions, the mandrel bending going into a resonator muffler on the back with some very good looking gloss black tips. I really like those. They look really nice. Of course, they don't have that hooky cutout in the bottom, but you can see inside this thing, actually shining light in the opposite side now, but you can check it out. These are a very efficiently designed muffler, and interestingly enough, they actually sound pretty good, which is sort of odd for an EcoBoost. You know, a lot of EcoBoost exhausts sound sort of, you know, fart canny, I guess you would say. They're just not great. But Borla really did their homework on this one, and it sounds very nice. So I think I'm not just going to sit here and talk about how nice it sounds. I think we should go out, take this thing for a ride. Hey guys, Sid here, and we're at 5-Star Tuning again. I'm here with Bryce, and we're going to take a ride in his 2020 EcoBoost Explorer ST, featuring, of course, 5-Star Tuning. Looks like it's HP tuners through an N-gauge.
It is.
And the brand new Borla catback exhaust system.
That's right, the S-Type. Yep. So far, so good. Love it.
Great. Let's see how it sounds on the street. Oh, air-conditioned seats. Beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had one of these in a couple months ago and did some just basic driving around testing of a stock one. And I was pretty impressed. I think this is by far the best of the performance SUVs that Ford's made. I wasn't a huge fan of the Edge ST, but I think Ford definitely redeemed themselves with the Explorer.
It's definitely a performance-biased platform for an SUV. It's all-wheel drive. It has the suspension. It stays well planted to the ground, and it doesn't float its speed. It stays controlled and planted, as opposed to some of the larger or previous models.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I noticed too. It feels more firmed up and more sporty. Like you said, it just doesn't feel like it's floating around like the Edge ST sort of did. The Edge ST just didn't feel special.
That, and they updated the interior in this. I don't think the Edge ST has the same
No,
I think it's still got the Taurus look to it.
it basically has the same interior it's had, the Edge has had for, I don't know, the last 5 years or so. They haven't really updated anything. But yeah, this is all, of course, totally new from the ground up. And it's a way more premium interior than, previous Explorers. I had a 2009 model, and it's Stone Age compared to the interior on one of these.
Yeah, even compared to the previous year, it's all the way down to the steering wheel, the seats, the dash layout, the new style screen. It's all new, and the digital dash is nice when you highlight the different modes.
That's one of the things I really like about this. And on the premium pack Mustang GTs and things like that, is having that all digital dash. It's really an execution of something that the OEMs have been trying to do since what, the 80s? Put a digital dash in a car.
Whenever it started out with the hoods,
Yeah,
the original hoods up on the windshield.
yeah.
I had a 1995 Grand Marquis that had a digital dash in it, and it was an alarm clock by today's standards. All the same color and no variants, just really a digital speedometer, temp gauge, and oil pressure gauge, no fuel gauge. That's it. That's all you got. Odometer.
Yeah, and the new ones are just
everything you can want on the dash.
It's great. The only thing that I would say I'd like to have it is I would like to be able to configure my gauges more than it lets you. But I mean, that's...
Yeah, on this one, it does let you on the center display where you can go in and go, scroll through your menus where you have like active four-wheel drive, and you can change what's available, what's not, like you can on the 150s. But with the different modes, it does give you at least what you're looking for in each mode. In the normal mode, you don't get much of a tack. It's off to the side. But you put it in sport mode, you get a full sweep tack.
So what are you guys making power-wise on this one now?
On 93, we got to go back to the dyno. We've made some revisions since the charts were released. Originally, I think it was in the 320s, and then mid to high 4s on torque. And then on E50 blended fuel with no parts, it was around the 412 horse and 540 torque range, and the torque I think is around the same still, but we've made some strides in top end horsepower. So I feel in that E50 we're probably around that 450 mark, stock bars on the big end, and mid to high 3s on the 93, compared to how it drove prior to us continuing to work on it.
And that's tune only.
That's tune only. That was no parts. So far, it has not made it back to the dyno with the exhaust on it, and at the moment, that's all that's on it.
Yeah.
Outside of the tune.
You can definitely hear that it has an exhaust, but it's not. I wouldn't call it obtrusive. And actually, just cruising around at steady state, you can't even really tell it has one on it. Just when you get on it, you can tell it's a little different than stock.
Correct. And to be noted, this is a vehicle that has the speaker system that pumps engine noise into the cab. And I don't know how well the video will pick it up, but from live inside the vehicle, you can differentiate the exhaust note behind you from what's coming out of the speakers.
Yeah.
Especially if you drive one before and after. If you're used to it before, you'll definitely hear it back there. To me, I hardly notice the speakers anymore when it's sport mode. Of course, that's only sport mode. Normal mode doesn't, to my knowledge, I don't think it gives you the exhaust sound. If it does, it's deep into the pedal.
Yeah.
It's deep into the pedal. But this is the S-Type, not the Attack. I have not personally experienced the Attack version of this package. I would imagine it's the same tone from what I can tell in videos online, and just a higher noise level.
So personally, for my taste, what this vehicle is geared towards, I think the S-Type is probably the better choice, because at the end of the day, this is probably going to be more of a family vehicle. You don't want it to be overly obnoxious, right at the grocery store.
Cruising down the interstate, you can't tell you have exhaust.
Yeah.
You've got to give it some pedal to hear it. It doesn't take much to hear it. When you're in sport mode, it's holding the gears longer. In normal mode, it takes a little more, because the way we set it up, of course, normal mode's not going to hold the gears as long as sport mode does during normal driving. It's not going to downshift as aggressively, so it maintains a lower RPM as you're just driving through town, and you don't hardly notice it near as much, which is good.
Yeah.
It's good for this kind of vehicle. It's not supposed to be loud all the time, and I'm sure there's people out there that feel differently.
Yeah.
But it is the market that I think is purchasing this vehicle. It's going to fit that well.
Well, I think it's the difference between a sports car and a sporty car.
Correct.
And to me, this is a sporty car, not a sports car. So
yeah, it blurs the line, but it does compete in its class well.
Oh yeah.
And it definitely is fun to drive.
Yeah, and this 3-liter EcoBoost is a really, really nice engine. It makes way more power than you think it would, especially just from a tune. But on these things, they're so constricted from the factory just in the intercooling system. Even the intercooler is tiny. It looks like something that should be on like the Fiesta ST or something. And then
it does. And to make matters worse on that, it's small and its location is 90% blocked off by the structure of the supporting structure of the grill itself. So it's not even directly in line where it can see direct air. It has to be routed up a little bit through some of the grill shape. So the heat's the #1 stopper of horsepower on the big end on this thing.
Yeah.
Intercoolers are supposed to be available now to ship. With everything going on, I don't know if that's still the case, but I know Whip was supposed to start a public release of their kit 2 days ago.
Yeah, the Whipple intercooler looks pretty good, and it looks
good.
It's definitely way bigger than the factory one.
And we're still doing, actual reading testing on the exhaust. And as bad as the factory one was for a not hearing it standpoint, they made sure that you did not know the vehicle was running. There was a spring-loaded flapper valve in there to up the back pressure at idle, so you wouldn't know it was there.
Yeah.
There's a suitcase of a resonator. This is single in, 2 out, so that kind of split system doesn't split internals on a resonator, does not flow well. And then 2 gas cans of a mufflers under the rear bumper. So from what I can tell so far, without getting back on the dyno with it, I think the exhaust is just going to help on the big end as well from what it can flow. And that's with the factory airbox intact. I mean, the airbox kind of is what it is on this one. I've seen no projection of any kind of cold air intake or anything like that yet, at least not on a mass production scale. I've seen some custom jobs and they look really good, but nothing on a available to the public type scale yet.
Yeah, you can look at, we cut it in the video earlier, that factory exhaust in it.
Yeah.
It's like you said, the center muffler is just an enormous pile of junk.
Yeah, and then you don't hear it. It makes no noise. They make no noise at the drag strip in the videos. I mean, you heard the tires, you heard the noises that the engine itself produces while under load and higher RPMs off the line. You didn't hear any exhaust. It wasn't there. It wasn't something that at least the camera picked up or I ever noticed. That's why they're pumping it in through the speakers.
Oh yeah,
you get something out of it.
It's surprising that they don't have an active exhaust system, sort of like the Mustang GTs, GT500, GT350, all that, available on one of these, just to give you a little bit more tone from the factory. But
well, it is a V6.
True.
And that's a hard sell for a lot of people, that a V6 can make good noises for a group of buyers that's used to something like a V8. I mean, Ford's just 10 years ago started putting these V6s and everything. There's still a lot of holdouts on the older V8 market and V10 market that the 6-cylinder sound's just not what they like. So offering that at the factory outside of a Mustang, like the performance version of the 2.3, I don't outside of the Raptor, I guess. The Raptor would be the only one, but it still really doesn't make that much noise. It's just a really well engineered system for performance.
Pretty much. Yeah, and the exhaust on the Raptor doesn't sound terrible. It doesn't sound great either. But like you said, you're dealing with making the best of what you've got. Taking the V6 lemons and trying to make lemonade out of it.
Yeah, and even this exhaust, I mean, you get hardcore V8 guys or guys who just, that's all they want to hear. It's not for them. It's not their style. It's not their fancy. It is. You have to remember what you're working with.
Yeah.
It sounds. I think it sounds good regardless of what it is. It's definitely the best sounding, or one of the best, if not the best sounding kits I've heard on an EcoBoost yet. speaking of noise, we'll go ahead and we'll just hit it from a dig. I won't brake boost it too hard. I don't want the audio gear to go too far.
Oh, you can go ahead and do it. I'll just hold it there with my finger. We'll be good to go. It definitely sounds good.
It definitely makes noise. It doesn't crackle or pop or anything on the big end, so that's nice. It definitely it carries the same tone all the way through the RPM range.
Yeah. But it seems like you can feel that intercooler is holding it back a little bit on the top end, like it's just not pulling quite as hard as you know that it has in it.
Especially on like a warm day like today. It's not hot by any means, but it's 81 outside.
And humid.
So at a starting point like that, I mean, you're looking at, on the dyno, we have this thing, we had good fans on it. We had the grill shutters forced open. And doing 2 to 3 pulls at most is all we could, which is all we ever do most of the time anyway. But you on the dyno in that kind of environment where you don't have that high velocity air because you're not cruising down the road, it's just hard to replicate that with a fan artificially. You could see, 170s, 180 manifold charge temps on this thing. Even stock, it's just boiling in there, and moving down the road, does it get that bad? It's hard. A really hot night, 100-degree night at the drag strip, you can see it if you sit on the starting line a long time and let it get heat soaked. But I mean, there's just no cooling effect. Like once you take off and you start running that higher boost, there's very little cooling effect happening from that intercooler. I mean, it's getting up there, and all that does is just limit
it's just murdering the timing.
It's murdering the timing. The computer's pulling it out. It's definitely a needed upgrade for it. We're looking forward to that Whipple kit coming out, or I think Levels Performance also has a kit in the works if they haven't released it yet. So I can't wait to see what these things do.
It'd be really interesting to see what Water-Meth would do on one of these too.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely something that would help. We've gotten through a lot of Water-Meth testing on different applications. It has helped a lot of them, in our environment here, where we're at, since you do have 90 to 100 degree days, a lot of times during the year. So getting the nozzle sizing right is the biggest thing on that, not just putting too much Water-Meth into it because you can.
And the great thing about the meth is you're getting that extra octane from the meth as well as the cooling factors.
Correct. It's and when you're running, a lot of the guys out there can't get 93. They're only able to run 91's all they have available to them. And if you're in a part of the country that's a low volume traffic or low population, and your fuel, that high octane fuel, doesn't get purchased often, it even goes worse from there. So that Water-Meth kit is definitely a way to offset that if you can't get something like a higher ethanol blend into it, or those things aren't available to you.
Yeah, that's one of the issues we deal with is there's just no stations around Myrtle Beach selling E85 anymore.
We have one. To my knowledge, unless one's popped up here very recently, we have one. It's around 20 minutes from our office.
That's the closest one to us too.
So,
we're an hour and a half away from you.
It's an hour. I'll say it's an hour and a half away from you, really. Then.
Yeah. So it's basically in between us. 20 minutes for you, an hour and 10 minutes for me to get E85. But you could have Water-Meth shipped to your door.
So, it's not expensive. Getting the properly blended stuff from the manufacturer of the kit's a good thing. I don't suggest running windshield washer fluid from the parts store.
No, I can actually tell you a funny story about that. God, who was it? I think it was Kenny Bell told me this, that somebody had a Water-Meth kit on one of their blowers, sent it in to be rebuilt, and the blue from windshield washer fluid that they've been running through it had basically anodized the rotors on the supercharger blue.
I wonder if that red dye on some of the other manufacturers would.
I don't know. It's possible.
Would do the same. The stuff that we run is red, and I guess I haven't checked. I definitely ran it through a Kenny Bell. That's a good thing. That'd be fun, interesting to check to see if that red dye does. Just to highlight, we've been in sport mode this whole time. I'm gonna put it back in normal mode.
Okay.
Just so for the sake of the audio, if it'll pick it up, if it, you notice a tone drop in it when I accelerate back after turning around up here.
Yeah, it's funny how they had the audio engineers playing with that on just every different level that they could.
Yeah. Over here.
But yeah, that if you want your supercharger rotors blue, run windshield washer fluid.
Well, hopefully you never have to take your supercharger apart.
Yeah.
Something else is probably going on if you have to take your supercharger apart, but
True.
yes, yeah, if you want it blue, that's one way to do it. Of course, then you end up with oddball mixtures of water meth. Yes, it's on the bottle. Yes, you can calculate it from the freeze point and everything else, but I mean, I can't really vouch for what else is in there when it comes from the part store. Does it work for windshield washer fluid? Yeah. But I mean, you start getting into, well, it also takes bugs off. What kind of detergent's in it?
Yeah.
You know,
And
stuff
that's
like
going
that.
through the engine as well. Yeah, it's better off just buy the snow boost juice and be done
Be
with
done
it.
with it, yeah. And you know it's 50-50, so you get more meth out of that than you're gonna find in any,
Oh yeah.
at least that I'm aware of, any store brand washer fluid. But and then right nozzle size, spraying the right amount in there for the power you're making. Everyone wants to go to the bigger nozzle than they need. And it doesn't really hurt. You're just wasting water meth at that point.
Tell you another windshield washer fluid story. I'm full of useless information. Studied the case where a guy was importing washer fluid in 55-gallon drums to Russia.
Okay.
Except it wasn't washer fluid, it was vodka. It's actually cheaper to send American vodka to Russia because they tax it so much. He was sending it over there and then taking the blue dye out
Interesting.
and then selling it in Russia. Yeah, he's still in Russian prison for
I
that.
can imagine that's falls under all kinds of import tax laws.
Exactly. But yeah, it was American vodka going to Russia disguised as windshield washer fluid. It was blue dyed vodka.
He's stuck somewhere for a while.
Yeah, yeah. If you end up in prison, you don't want to end up in
Not there.
Russian prison.
I got him somewhere in Siberia in the cold. That was a good little ride, good demonstration.
Yeah. So overall, would you buy this exhaust system again?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyone who asked, this is the one to buy. It wasn't hard to install.
Fit and finish looks great on
Yeah.
it.
I got the black tips on this one because it's a white and black Explorer. They also make a chrome tip and a carbon fiber tip, and I have seen people do really cool stuff with the carbon fiber tips, paint-wise and inlay-wise. They have a kind of a design on the inside that's shaped a little differently, and they're definitely neat. Personal touch on all of that, but I mean, ease of install. You could do it in your driveway with a jack. Just the vehicle's low. You got to get it up a little bit to do it comfortably, at least for a person my size.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it looks like it's a great quality kit. It sounds good. If any of you guys need an exhaust system for your Explorer ST or a tune, hit up 5 Star Tuning.